آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم أنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين.
Thank you, sir. Jazakallah khair for that. So today, as you all know, I'm the host and the creator of Single Series, and today's topic is such an important one that I'm very, very excited about. Is an all-male panel. So all those things that we sisters ask Google, trying to figure out the male brain, we have three amazing panelists to do justice to that. Because of the short time we have, I will not read their official bio. All of that is on Instagram already that I've already shared. But in terms of how today will work, today, in terms of how today works, sorry, one sister Yusuf Rafia, your camera is on. If you can turn your camera off, that would be amazing. So as you know, the first 1 hour, 15 minutes is for the panel discussion. And then we'll go into the Q&A session, which is 45 minutes. And then in 5 minutes, inshallah, I will do the conclusion and we'll round up. And today's topic is what's a successful marriage and how do you achieve it? A panel discussion with 3 Nigerian Muslim men on love, finances, career, intimacy, and much more. One of the reasons why I've done this particular topic and have an all-male session is a lot of you come to my DM, and when I do surveys, it's like the way we understand marriage is different. The way men understand marriage is different from the way we sisters understand marriage. So I thought it was so important for us to have this conversation to unpack certain things. And because like I always say, sisters do not marry sisters and brothers do not marry brothers. We're Muslim. So we need to know that how do we make marriage work in an ideal situation? And like Dr. Lajabi said, most of us here, some of us are married, some of us are, looking for that better health. And today is about unpacking all those topics. And I'm just going to start with Dr. Lajabi, a question, which is one of the classic ones on marriage and finance. So a sister asked, in Islam, a man is supposed to bear the brunt of financing the home. As such, is there anything wrong with a man saying to his wife during the premarital stage when they're hoping to get married, and the man says, yes, I know in Islam I'm supposed to look after you, take care of all your needs financially, but the reality is money, depending on one income, is very challenging. And in most households, I'm not sure if that's the case. So a brother that is looking to get married, is it okay if he says to a sister that, you know what, yes, I know what Islam says, however, I need you to support me financially? Is he allowed to say that? And if he says that, is the sister allowed to say, yes, I'm happy to take on certain financial responsibilities? How does that dynamic work at the premarital stage?
Okay, alhamdulillah, wassalam ala ashrafil mursalin. We thank Allah. The standard is, as we all know, for the man to be the bearer of the finances of the family. Allah says, "Ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa." So it's a standard thing. It's going to be optional for the woman to support the man. A man that is saying that before marriage, if it's my daughter, I wouldn't advise my daughter to go into that kind of marriage, because now it's one of the things that are happening in the world that brothers are expecting, or brothers were not committed before marriage. If a brother is not committed before marriage, I see it as a danger sign. It's a red flag. It is not committed before marriage, telling the woman. Because you see, what I've known, I'm a performance coach. I do trainings on financial intelligence. What I've seen is that no matter how much you have, it should be enough for you. If you are earning, if you know you mind your lane, you'll be fine. So if a man is telling a woman, except if the man is saying that, okay, this is my status, I know your status is high. In fact, most of the scholars, most of the schools of thought have advised that A man of a lower economic or social status should not go for a woman of higher or socio-economic status. It's only one school of thought that supports it. You give the reference, you see the reference in that of the Prophet and Khadija. But the Prophet took up the challenge. It's optional for Khadija to say, okay, I'll take care of whatever, anyhow I can support you. No man should, or I would advise any woman to agree to that before marriage. It's a danger sign. Because when you get to marriage, you're stuck. It's a one-way system. One chance. When you enter the marriage, one chance.
I love that. So what we're saying is, so one of the first episode we talked about red flags. So I love what you're saying as a red flag. If a guy is already telling you that, babe, I expect you to do X, Y, Z financially, sisters, that is a red flag. Because if he's a Muslim brother that really understands and wants an Islamic home, then that should not even come in as a conversation.
It shouldn't.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Adiko, I want to go to you. On Instagram, you are popularly known, I don't know whether you and your wife know, as the most romantic Muslim brother on Instagram. I don't know if you know, Sha, but yeah, that's your nickname. And for me, when I came across, I first heard about your story on the Family Tips page on Instagram, where they share stories of couples and how they met. Yours particularly struck me because how I met my husband was similar as well, over the phone, talking. But I then went to your page, I noticed, you backing your wife. I'm like, nice, are these people Nigerians? Where are they from? So alhamdulillah, it's quite interesting, but I want us to go back to that time, prior to when you were dating your wife. Because from the story that I read, you actually proposed to her the first time you saw her physically. In my mind, I'm like, who does that? Like, what courage did you have? So the question I'm asking is, at the time when you were talking to her on the phone, how were you able to sort out your feelings? How did you know whether this was love, infatuation, chemistry, or just a sister that has a nice voice on the phone? Because with social media and the way the world is really connected now, a lot of people are in long distance relationship. That is not unusual anymore. So to the brother or sister in that situation that is thinking, I really like this guy over the phone or this sister over the phone, how are they able to sort out their feelings to know whether this is the person? What are those signs they can look out for when they are not together physically? So please take us down memory lane and help the single person here having that in that similar situation.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I wasn't aware of the accolade of being the most romantic person on the internet. But thanks, I'll take that. Alhamdulillah. Rabbi Shrali Sadira Yasirili Amri Walali Ukudata Milli Zani Yafko Koli. Well, everyone has got emotions. Yeah. I know people talk about women having emotion and maybe men not as emotional or not as emotive as women. But I think it goes both ways. Men have got emotions, women have got emotions. I think the difference is the way we express our emotions. Okay. Now, the question about how I was able to know or find out she was the one. Going by our story, which obviously you know about by now, I started speaking to my wife now, I think from the March of that year. And then we met, I think it was in June, July, the summer. I think there was about a 4 or 5 months gap before we eventually met face to face. But alhamdulillah, I would say that I started from a position of strength. The position of strength I am referring to is I knew her through, well, it was actually my brother initially, right? And then my brother obviously would not push me to the forest. My brother already knew a lot about her, and then I did my own finding as well. In terms of being able to connect, I think it's very important for us to do our own due diligence, actually. Apart from coming highly recommended, by my own brother and my very, very good friend, I also did my own due diligence. And then I think it worked well in terms of my findings came positive. And then even though there was a couple of months dilly-dallying on the part of my wife at the time, as a matter of fact, from what you probably know, it was more of like a game playing, you know. But alhamdulillah, at the time, it was free flowing. It didn't start very smoothly, and then it got to a point where it was more like a friendship, sort of. Within that space of a couple of months, we started talking, and then you will know when you start talking to someone if they are meant for you or not. It's an instinct. I think over time, I probably developed that instinct over time because maybe perhaps I would say to myself, my wife always says, oh, you know, you're experienced when it comes to love and all that. I think I had a bit of experience myself. And then from talking to her for the first couple of months, I knew she was the one because I had a plan. And, you know, when talking to somebody else, their response will show you whether they fit into your own plan, you know, without having to make it seem like an interview. It wasn't an interview. We used to talk and talk for ages over the phone. There are times that, you know, I'll come back from work, we will talk from about 9 o'clock, we'll talk and I'll go like, oh my God, it's almost Subi. Let's go and have a nap. So it went like that. And from that conversation, there was that, what people will call chemistry, an emotional connection, even though it was mostly over the phone then. It just developed. And then, yes, even though the first time I saw her, I said, yes, this is it. But before then, it's funny, my dad had already seen her before me. And I also met our own parents before I met her. Because the parents came to London and I was being helpful, you know.
Paying your dues ahead.
Yes, I was paying Mondomi Siwaju.
Paying it forward.
Yeah, like Yoruba people would say, I was painting, you know, the ground. So I was being very helpful when they came. So all that had happened already before I eventually, you know, met her in person. So alhamdulillah, it was very easy. You know, I'd already met the parents. She had already met my own parents, you know, so things just went smoothly. Alhamdulillah, we got there. I think it takes more than, you know, just a 10-minute conversation or a 2-hour webinar to try and describe how to establish an emotional connection. When it's there, it's there. It's not something that you force. It's not something that you learn. It's like a dog. You don't teach a dog how to bark. You get what I mean? When you have that emotional connection with someone, you will feel it, and then you would express it as a man, you know, yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. So one of the key things I'm taking away from that is it was free flowing, because sometimes you're talking to someone and you're thinking of what to say. So the single person there, one of the things you probably want to look at is this effortless? Is that conversation effortless? And of course, keying into your plan, because so it means that the brother also has to have a plan, because sometimes sisters are talking to brothers and the brother doesn't seem to have a sense of direction. So I'll say to the, you know, unmarried person here, one of the things you also want to look at is that sense of direction. So Jazakallah Khair for sharing that. Ayola, I want to go back to you. So for our audience, Ayola is a newbie married man. When I approached him and said, I want you on this panel, he was like, what do I know? I just got married in less than 2 years. I don't, what am I going to share? And I said, that's exactly why we want you on this panel, because Dr. Olajebe, alhamdulillah, has been married for 20 years. My brother, Dr. Adigun, 10 years now, right?
Yep.
And then Ayola, newly married. So I want to ask you now, I get a lot of DMs, particularly from sisters and occasionally brothers saying, I'm terrified of marriage. I feel that, you know, no, and I'm going to be just brutal here. A brother said to me that when it comes to sexual, last week we talked about sexual intimacy, and we're all grown-ups here, so permit me and forgive the language. The brother particularly told me that I'm terrified of having to sleep with one woman forever, that I don't want to be a polygamist, or I don't want to have a second wife. So number one of his concerns was being with one person forever. And then for the sisters, they're like, what if I make a mistake? So I want you to take us back to when you were deciding and choosing your own, when you decided to get married. Did you have any fears? If you did, what were some of those fears and how were you able to overcome them?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, my dear sister, for chipping in that I feel like an embryo, when it comes to marriage. I'm listening to this amazing experienced brothers, our seniors, and it's so nice. I'm here actually to learn, trust me, I'm not a panelist. I'm just here to learn. But to answer your question, I would say that my own story is it's a bit funny in the sense that as much as I admit that I'm new in the marriage sphere, I would not say I'm new in relationships or new to relationships. I think we had this conversation earlier. I'm even one of those people that you say got married late. I'm 36, inshallah, already this year. If you put that into context, perhaps I should have, gotten married earlier or something like that. But it was not for a lack of reason, And I'll just summarize those reasons by saying that the first and the most important one, especially if you are Nigerian, is the one, where you actually have to, I know, as much as we're also looking at it from the lens of Islam, what Islam says, we have to also be realistic and practical about what Nigeria too is saying. The truth is, for anyone that wants to get married today, and I'm not saying that all lands are equal or whatnot, but there are some certain things that you need to have, and perhaps this is a conversation, and maybe it has already been addressed, at some of the episodes. But the brothers have those fears about, it's not even about. I think maybe if we want to go from a balanced point of view, you now want to categorize them from an emotional, financial, and all of that point of view. But some of the things I have heard, and I know from a few of my friends that I have over the years. And like I said, I'm late in marriage, so I have quite a number of friends that are way more advanced. Some of my friends have two kids, 3 kids, and whatnot. So I'm just new. But when we were all in the mix of getting married, perhaps the biggest fear for us would be where do we start from? It's already very difficult for me on my 50K, 60K, 80K salary to even cater for myself. Then I'll now bring in one woman and get married to her again. Not afterwards to get one baby again, that one to be paying school fees. You hear all the senior ones telling you, complaining about, school fees today is 500,000 or it's 100,000. Some figures that they'll be throwing around, and you keep wondering, when would I ever even get to this phase? So for me, I guess that's, if I'm going to think about it from a Nigerian point of view, that the economic one is usually the biggest fear, for a lot of brothers. And then we go maybe a bit into the emotional part. Would I find a woman that would, sync with me? Would she understand me? Or on the one hand, I'm already battling those economic issues. Then you now have one woman again that is coming with demands and needs and all whatnot. It usually doesn't balance out. From a personal point of view, I don't think I was necessarily bogged down by the economic one, if I'm going to be honest. I think because I've always had that belief. Asibunallah wa ni'mal wakil is one of my biggest verses of the Quran, and it's also like a prayer. When you actually use it in that sense, I feel like Muslims have a lot of that they are not taking advantage of from a spiritual point of view. So I don't even think about the economic one, though it's reality. But I think it's not a big issue for me as a person. I narrated that to my wife a lot of times. We have this conversation. I am the most experienced in our relationship or in our marriage, so to speak. So when I'm telling my wife about my escapades, my past escapades, my past. It's like, oh, I'm bringing some, deep facts about what I faced from an emotional point of view. I was the Muslim that was very liberal, and I was saying to myself, you know what, I can get my, Muslim, Christian, whatever it was, let me just get married. So I had always wanted to get married, okay, but it was just that I was meeting people that I don't think ticked some of the boxes for me. And I'm not saying that I'm some wizard or some saint that I know what I even want, but I would also say at the end of the day that I'm where I am today because of Almighty Allah, honestly, because left to married way earlier, and I can assure you confidently with what I know today that most of it would have been, maybe I would have made a lot of wrong mistakes or made a lot of missteps. May Almighty Allah help everyone, that is searching today, and the right, to help them find the right person. That is my ultimate prayer for them.
Okay. So do you reckon, so obviously to tie into what Dr. Lajobi had said about finances, so for a man, I always say that if a woman is broke, it's just embarrassing. But if a man is broke, it's like he's handicapped. So from that Nigerian perspective, if a man cannot have that money to look after, to do his responsibility as a wife, perhaps he has no business to marry. Thank you for that. Dr. Lajobi, I want to go back to pre-20 years. So you've been married 20 years now. And definitely we know as much as marriage can be beautiful, it comes with challenges. What are some of the challenging times you have faced, and how have you been able to overcome them?
Okay, there are many challenges. Marriage is full of challenges. It's an institution. Financial challenges, emotional challenges, spiritual challenges, family challenges, career challenges, yes, child upbringing challenges. So a lot of them. Financial, I like what Brother Badebelo said, but I am that kind of guy that sees marriage in the most simplistic way. When it comes to finances, what I feel is if a guy has a job and he has a house, the house may be one room apartment. If it is a room, toilet, bathroom, kitchen in the same place, they can get married. That's the way I see marriage. Yes, maybe because of my background when it comes to education or family. So financially, I was barely out of school when I got married. It was a mutual agreement between me and my wife. My wife was still in school. My mom was my pillar of support. My dad was late. But my mom, I explained to her as soon as I did my final exams, even before my final exam, we did Abdul Nikah. The Walima was as soon as I was done with my final exams in medical school. And then she said, I understand. If now you're working, I started working immediately. Now you're working, you have a house, you're going to mess around with girls. And as a Muslim guy or as a Muslim boy, I don't expect you to do that. So let us see what we can do to support you. Of course, there's not everybody that will get that kind of support from home. But one can get the support, alhamdulillah. But even then, entering the marriage, we started very small. It was an understanding between me and my wife. But I was ready, even with the family, that, okay, we know you just started working, this girl is still in school. You will send her to school till she finishes. She's going to do PhD. You will send her to school. I said, fine. Say I'm a doctor now. It can't be so bad. We may not be rich, but we should be able to eat and be in a house, So once in a while, there will be challenges, particularly for a couple like us. We've been working as partners. So we are co-founders in 2 or 3 of our businesses. Yes, we do together. Even before those businesses, we've tried our hands on some other things. So each time we try to reinvest, it is tough financially. So what we'll know is we are going to cope. This time shall pass. When it comes to spirituality, we have to pray together. I may go to the mosque, but we must choose time to talk, to pray together. Marriage is something that Shaitan doesn't want. When there is marriage, Shaitan loses when it comes to extramarital sex. When there is marriage, Shaitan loses when it comes to having children out of wedlock. So we must be spiritually upright. Child upbringing is challenging. At one time, our child wants to start school. What is the kind of money we have to send our child to school? What kind of school are we going to choose? We'll discuss it. Now they want to get into secondary school. What kind of secondary school should they go? How much do we have to send them to school? These are challenges that we'll need to discuss and work a way around. And then you come to conflicts.
Yeah.
Conflicts. You have issues. It's a normal thing to have conflict. If you have a team starting from 2, there will be conflict. So the challenge with people is they don't understand that because you love yourself doesn't mean you won't fight. So people would ask, there was a particular training my wife and I attended. It was 2 parts, ordinary and then advanced training for 2 weeks, 2 weeks each. And there was a lady that sat with my wife during lunch. We usually sat together, but she sat with her and I sat on the opposite side. So she asked her, "You guys are such an amazing couple. You don't fight, right?" She said, "We fight now." She said, "Because she and our husband, they always fight, but you guys, you don't fight. Like, are we going to be fighting at the seminar? We'll be fighting in class now." My wife had to tell her to ask me. And then she asked, "Is it true you fight?" "Yeah, we fight. But we know that before the marriage, we understood we're going to fight. In the marriage, we understand fighting. That is misunderstanding ourselves. It's a way of understanding ourselves better. So we quickly make up. We know that we are not the same persons. She is who she is. I am who I am. We're going to fight. So we need to understand what was the cause of the fight, and next time it shouldn't come up. We can work against it. And then people feel, "Oh, your marriage is blissful because you don't fight." No, a marriage is blissful because we fight and we understand ourselves from it, and we see what we should do well the next time. So there will always be challenges. It's a daily thing, And one good thing is we can take it away from our kids, but then once in a while we let them know that we fight sometimes. Like my son, was discussing with me a few days ago that he didn't know that you guys fight until one day when you talked about it, like, "Oh, so you guys fight?" Because he never saw it growing up. He's 19 years old now and is wondering. So there are always challenges, but we should learn to sort them. And when they seem tough, there's no problem when we call it third party. We make effort to solve it between ourselves. Okay, but when it gets too tough, we can call it third party that may be in your interest, or maybe a counselor that none of you know. Because sometimes it is the third party that's going to put more pepper into your injury. So always challenges, but we learn to solve it.
So I love what you said about, because sometimes, those of us that are super romantic like this, you think you're going into marriage that is going to be all rosy. So it's really important that we have that understanding and awareness that there will be issues. It's just about how you resolve it. So thank you, sir, for that. Dr. Adigo, I want to go to you on the issue of polygyny, polygamy. I'll use the word polygamy, which most people are familiar with. And this is something that I think every Muslim woman is curious about. And for me personally, I always wonder that how is a Muslim man able to stay committed, loyal to his wife, to stay loving when he knows he has an option? Talk me through that process. So you've been married, alhamdulillah, in a loving marriage to your wife, but at the same time, Allah is giving you this option of not just one option, 2, 3, 4. So number one is, how is a man able to stay committed to a wife, knowing, "Oh, I can always, marry somebody else"? And that's the question number one. And the follow-up to that question is, when at the premarital stage and people are, lovey-dovey each other, can a Muslim woman ask a man that, "Can you promise me that you won't marry a second wife?" Is that possible? Is that allowed?
Alhamdulillah, it's actually quite funny, that question. And then I think the issue of polygamy is a very important and serious one, which I know that almost every woman in Islam doesn't like to talk about or address. Now, some things have just come to my mind now, and I'm glad Dr. Oladijobi and my brother Adibelo have already spoken about them. Now, myself and my wife, you know, we have open conversation all the time. And then one of the very important things when it comes to relationships or marriage is communication, honest communication all the time. While we were dating, I realized I could talk to my wife about anything and everything, you know. Ayola mentioned something about, you know, being able to talk about your past, yeah, without any fear. I think, you know, being able to talk about the past and the present is also an indication of whether you're going to be able to talk about the future. Now, when I talk about everything with my wife, she's fine, yeah. But the issue of polygamy, obviously, she always has reservations about polygamy. But alhamdulillah, over time, being a Muslim herself, she understands that it's something that we cannot run away from. We always have to address it. Now, talking from the point of view of a man, why would you want to go into polygamy? A lot of people go into polygamy for different reasons. Okay? Now, if you have your first wife and then getting a second wife, let's even leave out the fact that, you know, there are certain criteria we need to, you know, fulfill before having a second wife. Because obviously in Islam, we talk about adl, equality and equity, okay? If you cannot maintain that, I don't think anyone should be going into polygamy in the first place anyways. But aside that, you know, when it comes to polygamy, if you have a wife and then you want to have a second wife, what is the second wife going to bring? What is the extra the second wife is going to bring, or the third or the fourth? If you as a man can answer that question yourself, then it will be easy for you to have that conversation with your wife. Okay. Now, when I have conversation with my wife about polygamy, I can say to her jokingly sometimes, oh, I'm going to marry an Ilekwa as second wife. And then in her head, she's already thinking, oh, I need to maintain my Ilekwa forever, because as long as I maintain my, you know, slim stature, then it won't have any reason to have a second wife. I can jokingly say, oh, maybe I need to get a wife who does this. In her head, she's already thinking, I need to do that so that it doesn't have any reason to get a second wife. So we always have that open communication. And, you know, it might be jokingly sometimes, even though sometimes she doesn't like to talk about it. But you as a man, if you understand that this is why I want to get a second wife, and you have that open discussion with your wife, a lot of times it also helps women to make adjustments in their own personal life or their personal state. For example, sometimes, you know, some women will get married, and just because they're already married, they feel comfortable in that marriage. They feel comfortable in that marriage. They start to, or they stop doing what you saw in them in the first place. For example, we talk, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about having 4 things or seeing 4 things in anyone, either from a man, a woman, before you marry them. Talking about, you know, the beauty, which is standard. For me as a man, that is the first thing that will attract me. Anyways, whether they are wealthy or not, I may not see wealth in the first place. He has to be beautiful, you know, our personality, the family, and then we talk about deen. The deen is the most important, but obviously the beauty would always attract you first. Now, if the beauty has not attracted me, and then 10 years down the line, somebody who used to be very beautiful, who used to dress gorgeously, has then dropped, that's something that's already lost that I used to see. But then if you talk about it and then the woman also is on top of her game, although it goes both ways. If you as a man used to dress really nice, smell really nice for your girlfriend or your fiance, I think you also need to maintain that all through. So talking about that openly and expressing what you probably may find in a second wife and giving your wife the opportunity to make amends, I think it helps a lot. And as long as your wife can also quickly make amends, because women are very, very smart. They are very intelligent. As a matter of fact, they are more intelligent than us men. And I agree 100%. When you give them a hint, give them one centimeter, they'll take a mile. They will make amends, trust me.
But is that not threatening? Sorry to cut you short. So I love everything you're saying, but I'm sort of struggling with something that sometimes you can jokingly say, but is that not threatening the wife? Because it sounds to me like you're threatening me and you also want me to be loyal to you. Like, where is that even coming from? Like, it's either you're doing this second wife or you're not. Like, don't tell me, maybe I'll marry a second wife because I'm lepa. If I'm not lepa anymore, I had your children. So explain to us women what you mean when you say, those kind of things. Are you trying to threaten us, or are you trying to like say it may happen? What exactly are you saying?
No, well, I just used that as an example. And I like I said to you, I said, we say it jokingly. Obviously, if you don't love your wife, there's no point being in a relationship or being in a marriage with your wife in the first place. That's standard. If you stop loving your wife, like for example in Islam, talaq is halal. If you stop, the moment you stop loving anyone, either the woman stop loving the man, or the man stop loving the woman. It's the same. It goes both ways. And don't forget, I also mentioned that for men, we always, even for men, we also have to be on top of our games. I have not said that it goes for if you don't remain this, Even for me, whatever my wife saw in me 10, 11, 12 years ago, I need to continue to do it. She already told me, I know you do this. Okay, she likes that. And I continue to do it up till today. And as a matter of fact, I try to get better in that. Do you get what
I love that. Thank you so much. I just wanted us to clarify.
So it's not a threat. It's not like, if you don't do this, I'll get another wife. No. Nobody, any man that says that is definitely, being disrespectful. And that is not allowed in Islam.
Yeah.
That is against the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What I'm just saying is, obviously my wife saw certain things in me. Like for example, even before we got married, myself and my wife, long distance relationship, we'll do tahajjud together over the phone. Who does that? Tahajjud over the phone. And we still do it up till today. Do you get what I mean? My wife will say, you used to do this one before we got married. Okay. It's already registered in my head, and I will not stop doing that. Yeah. I'm full of spontaneity. My wife knows I'm very spontaneous when it comes to doing things. I do things on plan in a good way with her, and I still do that up till today. So for me, I should not stop that spontaneity. I should not stop those things we used to do together 11, 12 years ago. I need to continue to do them. And that's not saying, I'm sure my wife too will not say to me, if you stop being spontaneous, then I would leave you or I'll stop loving you. No, she will not say that. But she already dropped me a hint too. So it's for me to work on the hint she's already dropped me.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, it's always worked.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks for clarifying. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, by the way. Dr. Elijah, I want to go to you on the issue of men and infidelity. We live in a country, or rather in Nigeria, a lot of things I hear when I was asking my audience that, what do you want us to talk about? A lot of people said, talk about infidelity. That this is something very common in our community because Muslim brothers know they can have a second wife. They then start, even though they're married or they're maybe in a relationship, they're talking to other females, they're trying to show interest in other females with the excuse that I can get a second wife. So can you help us understand how a woman is expected or should react to a husband that she suspects is cheating? I'll clarify that question. Number one is, how should a woman react to a man she suspects is cheating? And from a male's perspective, when a man is, I can only say it in Yoruba, on water, like he's not really cheating, but you know, he's having ideas. What's the best way a woman should react that would not upset the relationship they have in a way that she can do with compassion, whilst also understanding that he may be actually honestly exercising his right to seek a second wife? How should that dynamic work?
Okay. So a man is okay, infidelity from a man. You know, it's not like I'm supporting it. It's haram, so it shouldn't happen for a Muslim man. However, it can happen, and you see, a lot of the things that Dr. Adegun said, they are valid when it comes to. It's not like you. I know, and and that was why Dr. Adegun said what he said. We do it, but I got it later that it's hurting for women. You know, we say it jokingly because for us as men, we are allowed to marry more than one. So we can say, sister, that sister I was talking to, you know, it may be the most now. We don't say it jokingly, but we don't know. So it's good for the women too to hint it that it's hurting. When you are really ready, it's not haram. So when you are really ready, please bring up the topic. But when you just say it jokingly, it's hurting. So now, a man is looking out, like Dr. Adigu said, I understand perfectly. And the truth is, when a woman fixes herself sometimes, in fact, most times, the man starts looking in again. Just like he said. And both men and women, it applies to us. As soon as we settle into the house, about 2, 3, 4 years, we forget the things we used to do before we got married. It's common to us. So women too, they start on Maderale, they will just relax and they will stop dressing to impress in the house. And then you go outside, you see women that are dressing to impress. Hey man, we are visual animal. Yes, we're visual animal. All we see at home is a woman that is tying wrapper or just wearing hijab, even in the house or something, you know. Particularly when the kids are not grown up. I mean, dressed to kill in the house. Dressed to kill.
Dressed to kill.
So when he gets out, he sees that there's nothing to see. Okay, so if a man wants to marry a second wife, of course, it's no haram. It's allowed. However, the woman should not feel hurt in any way. So one way I think the woman too should feel free. You see, for me, I believe that when your mind is set that something can happen, life is easier for you. There was a time I did training for some school owners on first aid, an emergency first aid treatment for school emergencies. And one of the things I hammered most on was being calm and finding out what happened and preparing. And then we did some form of simulation. Do you know that because they came from outside Lagos, the following day they came for the second training, the condition of the training, they said that, do you know that the hotel they were lodging caught fire that day after the training? And it was the two of them only in the whole of the hotel that were calm enough to come out dressed, and they took some valuables. At the end of the day, a lot of people came out naked. Fire, 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 fire. Because these other people were prepared that life is not a bed of roses. Anything can happen at any time. This is what you should do when emergencies occur. So if a woman also knows that this is a Muslim man, there's no need, number one, to sign any pact with anybody, contract before marriage that you will not take a second wife. It's haram. Allah says, yeah, you and Nabi. He was even talking to the Prophet. Why would you make haram for yourself what Allah has made halal for you to please your wife? There's no need. The woman should prepare herself. It can happen. When you prepare yourself, that it can happen. You'll be on top of your game. If anybody comes, it is like a competition. I know that women feel in their heads that is like competition, particularly when the second woman is coming. The woman is coming. coming with competition. The first woman has already dominated the house. There's no need for any competition. So my point is this: if a woman knows that this is a Muslim man, he may not. Your mind is more at rest. You be on top of your game. I'm a performance coach. Perform at your best. Perform at your peak as a wife. If it is sex, perform at your peak. If it is food, perform at your peak. If it is financial management, perform at your peak. Just anything. If it is when it comes with distress, calm him down. When you have challenges too, talk to him too. And then you flow. It is good to keep reading books. When you read books, watch videos on friendship, relationship, take your husband as your friend, take your wife as your friend. You need to keep talking. Dr. Adigu has said down. Keep talking, communicating, both verbally and also body language. You should know the body language of your husband. The husband too should know the body language of the wife. If you know all these things, then you put your trust in Allah. Brother Gladys has said that one. Put your trust in Allah. Put your trust. Me, I know how to do that a lot because I know get at. So what thing I feel do be say, make I put my mind with Allah. So put your trust in Allah. Any challenges you have, if the man is going to take a second wife, it will be tough for a woman. It is natural. It will be painful for a woman. It is natural. But if the woman knows Allah is going to be enough for me, it's not the man. Allah will be enough for me. It's not the man. You'll be fine. So when he's going like you are sure, or there are signs there's infidelity, you need to use style to talk to him because it's haram. It's not going to be good for the two of you, emotionally and also spiritually. It's not good, and then physically too, because it can bring up some disease. Yeah. So talk about it. Look for a way to talk about it. You need to understand your spouse. Yeah. May Allah put blessings in our marriage.
Sisters, if you're hearing, what I'm taking away from this wonderful conversation is that, in short, I think polygamy is just a strategy for us to just continuously be on our game. Because really, if a wife is, doing everything, it makes it, I'm wondering with the guy who's like, what else am I looking for when she's like on top of her game? So just have to prepare for that. That is amazing. Ayola, very quickly, if you can please share with us. So we know that as Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ is first by Khadija proposed, asked for the husband, the Prophet's hand in marriage. That is our religion, and we have beautiful example from the life of the Prophet Sunnah. However, culturally, it's frowned upon. So as a young man and as a young Muslim man, how do people of your age group see a woman who comes into your DM or approaches you, maybe not DM, or approaches a man and say, actually, brother, I like you, I want to marry you? Is that something that is completely forbidden culturally? Or because we're Muslim, a man would not mind? Or do men consider that to be, no, this is not
I'm answer that question. I would just love to touch very, very with my own viewpoint about the issue of polygamy from my viewpoint, just a little bit based on what the two brothers have said. Again, please understand that I am still the baby in the whole conversation here. But I think it was one of the things I recall my wife and I discussed before we got married. Alhamdulillah. And we discussed it both from two interesting viewpoints. I mean, she's from a home where her dad eventually took another wife, okay? And in a scenario that might not necessarily be, I don't know what the word is. Should I say, when it comes to polygamy in Africa, well, that I know of, it's very rare that you find brothers go through it in the Prophet advised, or the way even the Quran asks us to go about it. The first thing we have to consider, I think, as Muslims, is that I don't think any brother I don't think it's even allowed for you to go into marriage because you want to have because you are allowed to have 2, 3, or 4 wives. I don't think that is the intention of marriage. The intention of marriage, as far as we've read, is to fulfill half of your deen. That is the intention of marriage. So I think we have to push aside the fact that some brothers take any brother that takes that, oh, I'm getting married because I can pick 1, 2, 3, 4, I think we're already treading some areas that are not necessarily allowed. And then another thing I would like to add is that as Muslims, the first reason why we have our pillars of Islam, the very first one is Iman. We have to believe in Almighty Allah. And in the back of our belief in Almighty Allah, we then know that that one is split into like 6 different. You must believe in the Almighty Allah, you must believe in the Prophet, meaning that you must also even believe in their sayings. So if in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, I think verse 1 to 4, something addresses, some areas about marriage, and it also talks about why the condition for you to even pick a second wife, which is, you being unfair. And I don't know how many people can be just or fair in this modern age that we are talking about. So I think the reasons why some people go into that area is, I know it's a long list, it's a long topic. I cannot talk about it right here. But I mean, I don't even know anything about it. I just recall that when my wife, before we got married, went for a seminar, we attended it together. And one of the speakers gave an analogy for us that kind of brought it home to us. This is my wife, right, that is from a polygamous family that frowns at polygamy. And then we were at a seminar that addressed polygamy a little bit for us. And he put context to it. And he said, I think that the narration was that, and it was, I think, a real life example. So the husband, all right, was speaking to the wife that, oh, I want to take a second wife or something. Oh, no, it wasn't even like, I think he knew someone, a Muslim sister, that lost her husband, okay, And so he was willing to actually take her, marry her, like to fulfill that righteousness on her behalf. And the wife was, all against it. It cannot happen, blah, 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 blah. And you won't believe, as Almighty Allah designs has designed his life. Maybe a few months later, that same husband also died. So she also now became a widow. So my point is, I think the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu has done so many examples of life. When we are talking about polygamy, we shouldn't also only think about it from the lens of, single sisters or single brothers or something like that. We have to think about it holistically. There are widows as well that also deserve, a companion. Would we leave them alone now because we are, and all of that? So
I love what you're saying, and I love how you're being righteous. But I think for women, with the way we see these things is very different. And whilst I completely hear that,
no.
But I wanted us to sort of quickly move on because we'll need to finish the question.
Okay.
Conversation.
Okay. Then that's fine.
So if you tell me, how would you feel if a woman? How do men feel if a woman approaches a man and say, I want to marry?
Oh yeah. So
so what do men feel about that?
So I think how would men feel if a woman approaches them? If I'm going to speak from my personal view, I would. I mean, because I've had situations like that. To be honest, I mean, I've gone through the whole spectrum. I've dated people that are several years older than I am, and I've dated people that are several years younger than I am. In the times that I didn't understand a lot of stuff. Then, what I understand now anyway. Alhamdulillah. And so if I was going to look at it from a personal lens, I would be maybe a bit controversial to say I won't see it in any way. I would accept it dependent on if that person ticks boxes for me as well. So it's like, oh, you tick certain boxes, fine. I mean, let's give it a shot. That's me, okay? However, knowing what I know as well in this part of the world, I know a lot of guys might just either they miss, what's the word now? They all tend to call it a lack of respect. They tend to maybe not respect that woman that is bold enough to actually approach them and tell them, maybe there will be that bit of, oh, I must be the one doing the chasing. Yeah, there's that assumption. I must be the one doing the chasing. So if a woman comes to me, and honestly, I don't even think that any of those things they're all cultural. I think that we tend to mix cultural with religion, and then suddenly we come up with that concoction that says, I'm not that kind of person. Maybe it's just me, I'm not cut from that cloth, and I don't think Nigerian men or generally men should even do things conventionally. I think we should look at what Islam says and the examples that the Holy Prophet has given to us.
Thank you, Ayola. Thank you. So, sisters, because I've heard of a story of a sister that approached her husband, and well, I will leave that there. So, I think, sisters, I'll let you decide how you want to go ahead with that. Dr. Lajobi, on the issue of career and marriage and ambitious women, I asked my audience a very direct question during the week, and I said to them that, are ambitious and intelligent women a threat to Nigerian men? Overwhelmingly, a lot of them said, yes, they are a threat to Nigerian men. I know, alhamdulillah, sister Shakira, your wife, mashallah, she runs a successful business. She's so educated, intelligent, ambitious. If you can, in the next, just in 2-3 minutes, tell us, how should a woman, a single sister who is intelligent, beautiful, ambitious, she has high aspirations for herself, does that mean she needs to settle? Does she need to then, minimize ambition to massage a male ego? How should that be approached?
It's the woman's game. You would see a man with ego before marriage. Though some men, have seen Muslim brothers, or I've heard about Muslim brothers that have lied that they would allow the woman to blah blah blah, because it's so scary when you see a Muslim man that grounds a Muslimah who is a medical doctor, a female doctor, grounds her at home not to work. It's unfortunate. Women are the one that allow themselves to be subjugated sometimes, because Islam doesn't allow it. Khadija was a merchant. She was a big businesswoman, and even after Khadija, there were women that ruled businesses. So a woman should look at the flags, before marriage. You should discuss it, and I think the family too should be carried along. Even though sometimes men change. There is a particular case I just heard about, I think yesterday, of a woman who just rose in her career, and the man did not say the reason. They went for a family function. They went to the family house of the woman, and the man, told the family that, I don't want my wife to work again. Just like that. And I said, it seems that what is going to happen is probably there will be a divorce. It's a funny thing, but that's what may happen, because the woman will get depressed with time. The man is not capable of taking care of the family financially, funny enough. So before marriage, these things should be clear. And then you also look at a man that understands Islam in the real sense. There are a lot of people now, they don't understand Islam. They would say they are mashallah Muslim brothers. They don't really understand Islam, because you don't just put a woman in the house, particularly at this age of time. If that man dies, who is going to take care of that woman? I've seen a lot of cases that people will be begging for a woman because she lost her husband. Begging, oh, we need to support this woman. She has 3 children, 4 children, and all that. So every man should know that even if you're the only one that's working, you must empower your woman. I don't even think a woman should not work in this age and time. I cannot have it, a woman sit at home. If she wants to sit at home, she will work at home. The world is so amazing now that the woman can work at home, can work from home. So a woman should discuss with the man. You see, a lot of things should be considered. The philosophy of the man is important. You will see it before marriage. You will see it. Yeah, that's the way I see it. Before marriage, you should see it and then do what it's supposed to be.
I'm a very unapologetically ambitious woman. So I love what you're saying. And I don't even understand the language when I hear women say things like, women that have to sort of minimize their ambition or their goals and aspiration in life to accommodate a man. Personally, I don't understand it. So for me, it's so encouraging to hear that from a practicing Muslim man like yourself. For that. So, I want to go back to you as the most romantic Muslim brother on social media. Last week, we had a very, very interesting conversation on sexual intimacy and how to keep the spark alive in marriage. And it was such an amazing conversation. So I want to bring it back. Marriage can fall into routine where, you go to work, come back, go to work, come back. How is a couple able to maintain that love, the romance, the intimacy on all levels? What are some of the practical things that you want to share with our audience today? Whether someone that is already married or someone that is going to marriage, what are 3-4 things that they can do, they should do to keep that spark alive in marriage? And they may not have the kind of money you have, but, with the kind of, within reasonable budget that can still make that, passion stay alive in marriage.
Alhamdulillah. Well, I think I mentioned earlier about trying to maintain whatever attracted you to the opposite sex, man, woman, woman, man. If we can try to maintain that as much as possible, the flame of love would always be there. Because that's the first thing in the first place anyways. Now, just to quickly correct the notion that you need all the money in the world for you to keep the flame burning. Yes, money is very important. And like everybody else has said, my brothers, Dr. Olajobi and then Brother Yola, money is very important. But I think more important is financial intelligence. Yeah. If you can't manage 1,000 naira effectively, you will struggle to manage 1 million naira. If you cannot, do something tangible in terms of, keeping romance alive with 1,000 naira, then you will struggle to do that with 1 million naira. So, in terms of money, yes, money is important, but more importantly, like I said, is that intelligence. See, everyone, men or women, I think, in my own understanding, we do not need much. If you don't show love, if you are just throwing money at a woman, that does not necessarily equate to showing love. There are two different things. And if you think that, okay, you are buying a Gucci bag, you are taking first-class trips, that's love. No, that is not love. And I stand to be corrected. I think, Allah has perfected our deen for us. When Allah said, if you understand the tenets, the principles of Islam, wallahi we will not struggle too much in terms of keeping ourselves happy. Now, I don't want to go back to the issue of polygamy, which I know is usually a very sore topic to talk about. But like I said to you earlier, to keep a man happy is simple. The same thing goes. To keep a woman happy is simple. Just do the needful.
What's that needful?
The needful
to keep a man happy. What's that needful?
To keep a man happy, the woman happy?
A man. No, how can we keep men happy? What's those 2-3 needful things we need to do to keep a man happy?
Okay. Like I said earlier, all of us have got to up our game, like Dr. Olajobi said. It's like I watch football a lot, okay? As a footballer, for you to be on top of your game, you have to continue to do the same thing and even do better. All right. Now, spontaneity is very important. Apart from the communication is very key. Now, if a woman wants something, she will drop a hint. Men, unfortunately, are not very good listeners. And that's a fact. We know it. A lot of men are not very good listeners. If we listen very well to our women, then we will always get the hint what women want. Because they will drop it. They will tell you either actively or passively. And then it's then left to us for us to then, okay, my wife wants a Gucci bag, but I cannot afford a Gucci bag. But she needs a bag. Can I get a bag from Primark? that will look like a Gucci bag and give her with all my heart. That's the needful. That's the need. It's different from my want, but at least you have done what she needs. And she hasn't even asked you. She's just dropping hint. And out of, nowhere, you have given her that bag. That's one example. Now, going back to that of the men. Okay, if you married your wife, because maybe when you married her, you say to her, oh, I like how you smell. And then you continue to say to her, oh, I still like how you smell. She will continue to do it because she knows that is what you like. Oh, I like how you dress. And you always continue to talk about dressing, dressing, dressing. The woman will continue to dress well for you. It doesn't have to be outside. We mentioned about earlier, some women or even men, after a few years of being in marriage, they drop their they drop their game. It shouldn't be. For me as a man, I know what my wife likes, and I will do it. I will continue to do it. As a matter of fact, and this is what I said about communication. If my wife does not like something, she will say it. I think, because for men, we are so egoistic. We like our ego to be high up there in the sky. We don't want to listen, or we don't want to, I think we live in a world where reality doesn't matter anymore. What matters is perception. We see ourselves as the alpha and omega. No, we are not the alpha and omega. In relationship, I think it's more like almost like a 50-50 thing. Everyone brings to the table. Everyone listens and everyone wants to be heard. If we give women that opportunity to be heard, let's always ensure that we listen to them. From listening to women, we will not make too much mistake. And it also goes with the polygamy we are talking about. If we listen well, and we give women the opportunity for them to express themselves, trust me, I don't think most men will want to go into polygamy just for the sake of it. Yeah. Going into polygamy itself, against, if he's not for Allah or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's not good. That is not advisable. Going into marriage itself, if it's not for Allah and for Deen, it's not advisable. It's not good. So whatever we do, we should always have at the back of our mind. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. May Almighty Allah guide all of us.
Ameen. And the only thing I'll add to that is to the sister brother listening, there is an amazing book that I use, the 5 love languages. If you don't know the 5 love languages, just Google 5 love languages. Know your spouse, your partner love language, and do the things that will make them feel loved. In marriage, it's so important to continuously feel loved and just feel that emotional tank. We all have emotional tanks, just like your car has a tank. So you need to do things and put deposits in that emotional tank. The last question we'll be able to take, unfortunately, before we go to the Q&A session, is for Dr. Lada. If you can answer it in like 2-3 minutes, that'll be so amazing. And it's about looking back. I think hindsight is one of the greatest gifts. When we look back, we're able to look forward with more clarity. So looking back to when you married and knowing all that you know now, to the man and woman here today that are looking to get married, what are those key 3 things you think is vital to build a solid foundation for a marriage?
Looking back, okay, so I look back and, every day I'm grateful to Allah. I take my chances. So what I did was to look at our family background, my family background. You see, whatever it is, the challenges are. I can see that the women are very bitter, particularly because of delving into polygamy. It's a big thing we shouldn't have gone into at all. Now, whatever the case is, look at your family background and look at the family background of the person you want to choose, whether you're the man or the woman. If you have similar family backgrounds, you're likely to work out fine. Yes. 2, your educational background. It's important. It is important, your educational background. You don't say, Islam. The person understands Islam. Don't worry. You will forget that one. No. The educational background of that person, if it is not similar to yours, there may be challenges. Then look at the religious background also. You're both Muslims, fine. But your philosophy about the deen is important. If I'm somebody that is rigid, this is the only way I can think. When you say this is how to do in Salat. That's the only way. Other people, they are wrong. If that's the way I think. And you, a woman that thinks, okay, you can do like this, you can drop your arm, you can, then the marriage may not work well. Generally, that person is a rigid person, and you may not be a rigid person. I can do with any group of Muslims, Nosfat, TMC, Tabligh, whoever they are, Salafi, anybody, I can do with them. But if I see a woman that feels, it is only Nosfat, that marriage may not work well. So I also saw somebody who has read the kind of books I was reading. Growing up, those were the kind of books she read. The kind of books I was reading too, I'd read. So most likely I was thinking it would be similar. So getting into the house, there was a lot of similarity. There were a lot of similarities in the way we were thinking. So everybody, what we need to do, we need to rebuff ourselves. If you don't, you know what is right now to do, but you will find it difficult to do because you are a made person. The first 2 years of your life is the most critical, followed by the next 5 years. So 0 to 7, your personality is made. Another thing just build up on those years. That's the truth. If you want to change your life, you need to start changing, start thinking back, and do some kind of form of psychotherapy for yourself. You need to rebuff yourself because you are who you are because of what was coded in you in years past. So those were the things I looked at the things she had gone through, and look at the things I had gone through. Most likely, the way we behave, there will be a lot of similarities. Not that we will still fight, but there will be a lot of similarities. And alhamdulillah, I'm grateful to Allah that all those worked, particularly the way we saw Islam, the way we both understand Islam, the way we understand how to spend money and how to delay gratification in any way, in any form, money, career, women, anything. So those are the things I would say, looking back.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lajobi. Jazakallah khairan, brothers. I'm going to take some questions. I'm not going to take any question on polygamy. If there's any question on polygamy, I'm going to skip it. But that was one of the things that kept coming to my DM when I asked my audience. So I had to take that. But if there's any question in the chat box on polygamy, I am not taking it. So I'll just go through the questions. Sultan, if you're there, let me know. I don't know if you're here.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, excellent. Do you have any questions for us, for the panelists, please?
Yes, I have some questions that people
sorry,
dropped
Sultan.
in the chat box.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sultan. Please don't take any question on polygamy. Go on.
Oh, sure. Okay, so all right, this is about divorce, actually. The person is saying, I heard that all it takes for a man to divorce his wife is to say, I divorce you thrice, and it's more strenuous for women. How can a woman wanting to divorce a spouse go about it?
Thank you, Sultan. Again, I'm not sure. I'll come back to that question because those are things you can check on Google. But Dr. Lajobi, Sultan, let's take another question, please, because that is going to open a can of worms. And we have just about 30 minutes. So please go ahead and ask another question.
All right, no problem. This other one is saying, from the experience of our panelists, how can the cultural expectations of a man's family on his wife affect the marriage of a new couple?
How can the cultural expectation of a man's
family on his wife affect the marriage of a new couple?
All right, Dr. Adigo, I want you to answer that because one thing I also wanted to clarify is Maridia, who is Maridia? Can you mute yourself? I can't find you to mute here. So please mute. The setting of this doesn't allow me to mute people. Maridia, can you please mute yourself? I can't mute you from here because you joined late. Dr. Adigun, going back to that cultural expectation, I think the question the lady is that the person is trying to ask is, how can a new couple, oh God, sorry, who is Mr. Maridia? Sultan, can you see the Maridia and mute the person, please? I can't mute from where I am now.
I'm trying to do that.
Okay. Dr. Adigo, how can a young couple protect themselves from the influence of their family? In our culture, when a young couple marry out of love, the parents want to support them. We all know that. But sometimes that support can be overwhelming. So how can a husband safeguard and protect his home?
Okay. I think there's a lot of work on the men folk in terms of protecting their wives. Naturally, the man is supposed to protect the woman, naturally. Now, sometimes the family influence can be well-intentioned, but because there's no moderation to that influence, sometimes it can be seen as being overwhelming for the woman to take. Now, and this comes down.
Please unmute yourself, Dr. Adigu. Dr. Adigu, unmute yourself. Somebody muted you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. How much of that did you get? Sorry.
Maybe 30 seconds.
Okay.
Just about 30 seconds.
Okay, yeah. So, and I think we need to break the age-long everlasting barrier about wives or women being subdued. I'm not a believer in women being subdued. I think women should be able to express themselves freely without any fear. Now, if a woman doesn't want certain interference from the family, I think she should be able to say it. And I think it is the role and the responsibility of the man to shield his wife, not just from the family, in terms of maybe their overwhelming influence, but also from external threats. As long as the woman can say, okay, say for example, some mother-in-law would say, oh, this is what I want you to do. This is how I want you to do certain things. If the wife does not find that, helpful, and she has expressed that to the husband, I think it is then the husband's responsibility for the husband to try and moderate the influence of the mother-in-law. However, it takes a lot of wisdom. Now, talking about wisdom, I think that's also one of the things that a man needs to develop. I think it takes a lot of courage for one to, not in a threatening way, to try and change the way one's mom or the mother-in-law will do things. But with good wisdom and with Allah, I think the husband can do it to quickly come in, intervene between the wife and not just the family, but also the external threat. It's a lot of work for men, unfortunately.
What are some? Thank you so much for that. Can I just still on that point? What are if you wanted to look back to when you got married and to a young man here looking to get married, what are the 4 key skills you think he needs to have before he even gets married? We're not talking money now, but something like what you said now, managing in-laws. What are those key 4 things a brother should have before going into marriage?
Well, there are a lot of key skills a man should have before marriage. There are actually more than 4, to be honest with you.
Give us your top 4.
Well, number 1 is wisdom.
Wisdom.
And is wisdom. And I know that wisdom is not something that is, it's easy to come by. One needs a lot of wisdom. Because what happens if your mommy says something about your wife and your wife says something about your mommy? How do you apply wisdom, to judge or to moderate between them? So a man needs a lot of wisdom to do that. Now, a man needs a lot of patience. If you haven't got patience, then, I'm sorry, you are not ready for marriage. You need a lot of patience, yeah? Also, as a man, there has to be a lot of sacrifice on your part as a man. If you want to stand on the point of, I am the man, my what I say is final, that would not work. So we have to sacrifice. As a matter of fact, we have to push our ego to the side. So sacrifice is very important. And also, I think there's a lot of, like I said earlier, planning. Marriage doesn't just happen by accident. Yeah. Marriage doesn't happen by accident. If it happens by accident, then it brings a lot of struggle. But when we plan, that planning is very, very key. You have to plan for when it's just you and your wife. You have to plan for when it's just you, wife, and maybe one child. The moment another child comes, is extra planning. So you always have to plan. If you can't plan all these things as a man, then you will struggle. So those 4 key things are very, very important. Wisdom, patience, sacrifice as a man, put everything to the side, and lots of planning. And upon all, prayers, obviously, because without prayers, we cannot achieve much. So.
Fantastic. Jazakallah Karen for that. SG, do you have any questions, or do you want me to take one question from here?
Okay, you can take one. You can take one.
Dr. Olajobi, I want to go to you. Someone is asking that, and this is a common thing we get as women. Women are very emotionally driven, and we tend to feel it's easy for us to express our emotion. How is a sister able to deal with a brother that finds it hard to express his emotion? What are some of the things she can do to get the man to open up?
I think you should start from before they get married. From before getting married, you see, it's a lot of work. Commitment is the word. From before marriage and inside marriage. If the man is committed to making the marriage work, then the man will be willing to listen. The woman too will be willing to listen. Both parties will be willing to listen. Commitment is a big problem. So if before marriage you've been talking and you both have been reading books, you see, books have done a lot for me in my life. And then there are a lot of videos also on YouTube now, very useful videos. If the guy watches, with time is going to see, okay, this is how to talk. If a woman is not the talking type, she should better not marry a man that's not the talking type. It may be dangerous. But if you are the talking type, you are likely to be able to get words out of your man. When you are troublesome, sometimes you will be forced to talk. Sometimes, and with time, he may get to talk more. The more he talks, the better he gets. Growing up is what has made that man not to be the talking type. The same thing for the woman. I've seen a woman who was not the talking type. When we dug deeper, she used to be the talking type when she was young, but some things happened in her life and she changed. So the person that is not talking before can start talking, depending on the reason he sees for talking. I wasn't the talking type before. I grew, I learned to talk. And even in marriage, I learned to talk, and we learned to share things, to talk and discuss, communicate. So if you know before marriage that this man is committed, with commitment, you get the man to talk. That's what I can say about that.
All right, Jazakallah Khair for that. There's a question here from my email, and the sister is asking that the brother, Dr. Digwa, I'll go to you here. The brother is asking that his wife-to-be works in a bank. The way she dresses, he interacts with men is uncomfortable, and he's had that conversation a couple of times. And the sister just keeps saying, "Do you have another job for me?" They are not yet married, but it's very uncomfortable with that. So what advice would you give to a brother like that?
I think, there should be respect for each other's profession and each other's career. Yeah. She dresses that way, except she wears a bikini to work, which I'm sure, will not happen. Exactly. If that's not the case, I'm sure she's doing that for a good reason. And it's good that that brother and the wife-to-be or the fiancé are already having that conversation. Now, as long as both of them can come to a compromise or a middle ground to say, okay, if that's how you want to dress to work, and fair enough, he hasn't got another job for her, so let her dress to work like that. But the moment she's out of that job or out of that work, then she can dress the way he wants her to dress, or she can dress the way she feels comfortable, because it goes beyond him as well. He might want her to dress in a certain way. If she doesn't feel comfortable dressing that way, I think the brother too has to respect that sister's opinion. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, respecting each other's career. I mean, you met her because you met the sister the way she is. So, and now you want to change her to become somebody else. Brother, no. I completely love that. Dr. Olajobi, another question is, again from email. Audience, I asked everybody to send email, so I'm going to take a lot of the questions from email. The question the sister is asking is, how does a woman cope? The word is cope with a man that is husband that is threatened by our intellectual, career, and entrepreneurial achievements.
The man is what?
Is threatened. We've
touched
on this,
okay.
Yeah, but he's threatened. So they're married, but she's asking, how do you cope with a man that is threatened by our intellectual, career, and our business goals? And I want you to please.
I think it starts.
Sorry, can I just quickly conclude that? Because
particularly
in the context that you and your wife, you're a serial entrepreneur, and she's an entrepreneur now. How do you balance that demand of career, and not, how can that sister cope in a situation like that?
The main challenge is this. The man has, most of these men, they have low self-esteem. That's my conclusion. It's not restricted to Nigeria alone. It's all over. It's all over. When a man has high self-esteem, he believes he can cope with anything. Okay? If the man, I've heard of a man who was told that the woman was flying high, and they told him that, your wife is using you. He said, for how many years I've not been able to use myself? For 34 years, I've not been able to use myself. I married myself, my wife, 34, when I was 34, and now I'm 39. He's been using me for just for 5 years. I never knew how to use myself before 35. She should just continue using me. She should be using my star. That's a man with high self-esteem. Allah has made it that it's the woman that will fly when it comes to career and finances. So what he did was to focus on the children. This is my area. Let me say what I can do to make sure that the children come out fine. Allah bless Khadija for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the thing is, before marriage, if you see that the man is confident enough, the man, you discuss it. I want to be a woman that will fly. There was a lady like that. They said, you are too ambitious. If a man tells you are too ambitious before marriage, I think you should take off. If a man talks about your career before marriage, the man should look for a woman that doesn't have that kind of career. It's very simple. Yes, seriously, except that career is haram. Now, most jobs, there are ethics. You can't mix with men anyhow, mingle with men anyhow. In most jobs, there are ethics. Okay, except you are working in the bar, which is haram. If it's in a bank or a corporate setting, there are ethics. And most of those ethics are the ethics that are in line with Islam. So the man is, you see, the challenge is, I talk now, I tell parents, let us groom our boys so that they will be confident men. So when they want to marry, they don't feel threatened by their women. So that woman, if she's lucky, she can discuss with the man and tell him, okay, there's a woman. I don't know, maybe you should have called the woman. What's her name now? She's in the Niqabi. It happened that the man wanted to start feeling somehow. She told the story. The man wanted to start feeling somehow because she was progressing in career and finances. She called him down. Let's talk. I should not work again. I should limit my work. I don't understand. What you are bringing in is not enough to cater for the family. I'm bringing in things and I'm supporting with the family with it. What if I am Khadija in your life? The man said, okay, you are Khadija in my life, like Khadija in the life of the mom of Muhammad. Said, okay. The woman, she's flying with a niqab. She's flying. Men need to develop their self-esteem. They need to develop emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a big deal for men. So there is a platform we just started. It's a productive, is a proactive Muslim dad. Maybe I will share with you, Lola. Please. Proactive Muslim dad. Because men need to be more confident and know that you are still the head. It doesn't take it away. Support that woman. Let her fly. If she's going to fly better than you, let it be. Except she will be rude anyway. That's one. Let her be ruled by Islam. Let her be guided by Islam. Sorry, I took time.
I love, as in, I did just say more. I love it, love it, love it. Ayola, I want to ask you a very quick question. Traditionally, a lot of us in our community, when we're getting married, they expect you get married today, get pregnant tomorrow, have a child, everything happens in 1 year. From your experience, what advice would you have to a young couple? Would you advise them to delay parenting? I mean, we all know that it's Allah that gives children, and I'm not talking from that perspective. I'm talking about that planning Dr. Adigun mentioned. Do you think it's worse delaying being parents so that a couple can bond first? Or would you say it's okay, you know, it's fine? What advice would you give to the young person there that is thinking about, should I wait? Should I just go into parenting immediately?
So my personal opinion is I'll use myself again, is to, I mean, people have different reasons, but in my own case, I delayed it. And it's been the best decision for me. Dr.
Wow.
Adigun talked about financial intelligence. He talked about a lot of other, Dr. Lajobi also talked about communication. And I've heard so many things here that I wanted to actually have with my wife first. You know, in the first year at least, let us know what we're doing. Let's settle down a little bit. Let's know what we're doing. After our honeymoon, we were pretty about it. My wife and I be creative people, so again, we had to figure out for her. She wasn't working. I'm the only one that. It's very ironic because I mean I have on-the-job experience. I've been running my business for the past 7 years, but the highest degree I have is a bachelor's degree, whereas she was actually already. I met her while she was already working towards her MBA. So it feels in the marriage today, she is a lot more advanced from an academic point, whereas I am a lot more advanced from a career standpoint. So we had to find a balance, what works. I mean, I tried to initially get her, some job somewhere or whatnot, but along the line too, we found our balance, and so we needed to figure that out first before parenting. I think jumping into that parenting is another thing entirely that we were not ready to. So I would suggest, again, I always go back to the economy. And you'll be like, everything you have to do, there is finance to plan and whatnot. Oh yeah, and by the way, you and I met on Muslim Finance Coaches platform. It might interest you to know that we actually signed up to learn more about finance. We signed up with him in January to learn more about finance from a halal point of view, as a family, as a couple, then as individuals first, then for our kids coming and all of that, before we start to have them. Let's not just dump on them about, and all. I think people should just take things,
so that waiting
be strategic about it.
It's been one of the best decisions you have made. I love that.
It's been a revelation for us.
Alhamdulillah.
So I would recommend it for anyone.
Alhamdulillah. SG, do you have any question now before I go to Dr. Adigun for another question from the email?
I think you can go ahead. We don't really have a lot of questions until asking people to drop the question.
I can see a lot of chats here. Maybe it's just chatting. So Dr. Adigun, a lot of us women, especially those of us abroad, we've gone to school, we have masters, we have all these things, but the reality of, not just abroad, I'll bring it back, the reality of parenting, the reality of raising children, sometimes as a woman, you have to, or you choose to take a step back from your career so you can focus on the home, support your husband. But the risk of that is sometimes you wake up 10 years down the line, you realize that even though being a mom, I think, is the hardest job in the world, but societal expectation is, people will say to you, you're just a mom. So a woman that is in that mind space, how can a husband support her so that A, she doesn't lose her self-esteem, she doesn't feel she's missing out? What are the ways that a man can make her feel she's still very valued, even though she's not, working in corporate or running businesses like her friends are, that she doesn't lose her self-esteem and lose value or lose herself in that role of mother and wife?
All right. I think it goes from going by what we're talking about, respecting women's career. We respect women's career, we respect men's career. And I think when it also comes to house chores and looking after the home, I don't think it should be left to the women alone, whether they are working or not, okay? They can have a career and you do the house chores 50-50, depending on who does what. Even if the woman doesn't work, it does not necessarily mean that the woman should have to be the one who does all the work, Allah said, or Afana about the Umpo Commander, we are supposed to help ourselves. Like, for example, I'll use my own family. When I'm at home, the kids prefer for me to, shower them, bath for them, dress them up, and do everything, even cook for them when I'm at home. Because I don't see that as their mom's job alone. So when I'm available, I will do that. And the kids understand that. Okay. Now, that also helps her because, it gives her opportunity for her to have her own time, her own me time, and she understands that. And then she respects that, oh, I value the time that she spends with the kid. I value the time that she spends in looking after the kids. So when I'm available, I have to do the same thing. So we are sharing. It's a 50-50 responsibility. So doing that would also help the woman to say, okay, yeah, my husband respects me. My husband values my contribution, So I think, that's important for us to do. And it's the same thing with the career thing we are talking about. Men should have their career. Women should have their career. Women are supposed to look after the house, and it goes the same thing for men, for us to look after the house. A lot of times when there's a wealth or success within the family, I think it's a lot of times we tend to think it's from the man. The success has come from the man, but that's not true. That's not true. A lot of times, even if the man is the face of the family, the success of that family comes from the woman. Because without the woman giving that stability, that family stability, that success is zero. Trust me.
I love
that. Zero.
I love that. Thank you. I love that. I love that totally. Dr. Olajobi, there are two questions for you here. One is quite very interesting. Islamically, are prenup agreements allowed? Number one.
What?
Prenup agreements.
What
Prenup.
What kind of prenup? What kind of prenup?
What she just says is prenup allowed generally, like before marriage, how we'll split things when we divorce, if we divorce. And what are your views on joint bank account?
Okay, so let me start from joint bank account. That one is simpler for me. I don't believe in joint bank accounts. You can run joint bank accounts, but I don't really believe in it. Maybe technically though, we have a family account, so maybe I won't call it a joint bank account, but maybe it's joint bank account. We have a bank account separately.
That's a joint account, I suppose.
Yes. We also use our ATMs. We can use it anyhow. Yes, I was really impressed by Dr. Adigu's homely, the romantic husband. Yes, I believe every father should bathe their kids. I believe so strongly, and they should cook. I do it too. We are in the same club. Yes, it's fantastic. You see, it's not just for me. It's not good for the woman alone. It's good for you too as a man. It's good for you because I feel good. Don't you feel good, Dr. Adigu? When you do it, when you cook for the family, don't you feel good?
To be honest with you, it's one of the best feelings in the world when I cook for the family before they wake up.
So it's self-actualization, yes.
Finish cooking.
Gratification. I feel gratified when I cook for the family, or when I bathe my kids when they were small. Even this one is small, bathing,
cooking, the ironing of their clothes,
yes,
sweeping, washing.
Yes,
all these things.
Anybody can do anything. She can wash the car. I can wash the car. She can drive. I can drive. It's only that when things become too stressful, I want to be the one to do it because I'm the man. Okay, so bank account, you can be joined, it's fine. Then about prenup contracts, if it is not against any rule of the Quran or Hadith, it's okay. Yes, because the person was not specific. But you can't make a prenup agreement about things that Allah has allowed. Okay? Yes, you can't. But if it is not against any rule of the Quran, you can agree on anything. You can agree on anything. However, I don't think that there's need to say if we divorce. It's not even my plan to divorce. Not like it can't happen. No. But when you're going into the marriage because when it's tough, I get out. That is what makes a lot of marriages break. But when you know marriages will be challenging, when it's challenging, we'll find a way around it. However, if there's violence, if there's lewdness, infidelity, all these things are not acceptable. But if we get to misunderstand ourselves, or if it's about work, if it's about what, we need to sit down and discuss it. Before marriage, you guys should discuss. Maybe that's the prenup agreement you want to, you mean. You discuss things. This is how we want to do things. You are the one paying my school fees. Though I'm a graduate, but I want to do masters, you are the one paying it. I don't care if I'm doing job with Shell or not. You are the one paying. It's fine. It's fine because everywhere now is his own liability to carry.
I love that.
So,
I love that. Thank you so much. One more question for you, Dr. Elijah, before I go to Dr. Adigo. But I think the answer is no, but I'll just ask you. A sister who is a medical student is asking, is it okay for her to marry? She's in 300 level. A sister is a medical student getting married in 300 level. What's your advice? Should she get married in 300 level?
it's yes now. How can you say no? Yes, so
In 300 level.
even 200 self. See, let me tell you. You see, marriage in Islam is
Sorry,
easy.
I take back
The
my
thing
no.
is that, I understand your point. Wallahi, I understand. The men we have, they are so terrible. So you are afraid. Yes, my wife even if it was medicine, I would have married her in 200 level if it was medicine. You know, this is it. If it's a man that you've seen, green lights, this man is sensible. Not those ones that they will be pretending, like chameleon. There are some, they will pretend like chameleon before marriage. And as soon as they marry you like this, they will say nothing, nothing. Before you marry, give some tests. Get a mentor that can put you through to see green red flags. Your parents, if your parents are in support, if you see the kind of parents, the kind of family he's from, it is very, very critical. Very critical. I'm sorry, there is something I want to mention. There are people that, when their upbringing is bad, they are likely not to function well in marriages. When their upbringing is like, maybe the man was violent, their father was violent in marriages, the man may not be able to function in marriages except that man gets to rehabilitate himself. Because all the things he saw, even though he didn't like them, he may end up doing them. The same thing with some women, when they see their wives and their mothers, lording over their husbands or being violent, yes, like that I've heard about. The girl too may not like it, but she may end up doing it except she gets psychotherapy. So there's no other fast route to it. What you need to understand is this man responsible? Will he be responsible? Does he have a good job? Because he's the one that's going to finance. If maybe people say, pay my school fees till I finish from now, pay it ahead, up front. Because I know not that I know, I even know the family. I know the family. The man did not pay the school fees of the lady. Medical school like this, 300 level. Of course, the woman was gentle and the family supported her. And the marriage dropped out. They are still fine after 21 years of marriage. But then it's not like that for everybody. The woman is very patient and the family supported her very strongly. So I can say she should not. Why not? Okay. People are doing it now.
Okay, all right. I take that back. So you heard if the person that is asking the question on the medical student, it's fantastic.
It is good that we assess it. Is it good for you? Is your family in support? With your family, talk to their family to make sure that it is right. Fine. And Allah will put his blessings.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Adigo, there is this myth in our community, especially our moms and dads, grown-ups and grandmas. They advise that when you find a man that is a good man, comes from a good home, is a good Muslim, what else? He's responsible, he has all these things, patience, wisdom. What else are you looking for? It's okay to marry. And they will say, usually the advice is love will grow. Now, what advice will you give to a sister who has met a brother that ticks the boxes? Good, nice, Muslim, everything, but she doesn't love him. Do you think a marriage can be successful if either both parties or one party does not love the other? In this case, if it's a sister that does not love the brother ticks all the boxes, but she doesn't love him. But all the advice around her is love will grow, marry the brother. Do you think a marriage can be successful when the woman doesn't love the man?
That's a very difficult one. And obviously, I can't speak from the perspective of a woman. If you were asking me if a marriage can be successful without a man.
Let's ask it that way. I'll change it. Can a man, so assume it's from a man's perspective, can a man that has found a woman, being beauty, everything, she ticks the boxes, but he knows he doesn't love her, but she ticks the boxes. Can such a marriage be successful even though he doesn't love her? He likes her, he's okay, but he doesn't love her.
Yeah, from a man's perspective, I think the marriage can work. I don't want to use the word success because success is a very relative term.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite relative.
Yeah.
From a man's perspective, if he doesn't love the woman initially, but she ticks all the other boxes, including family, including everything, I think it could work. And the reason is because, for men, sometimes, I know that sometimes they have stereotypes, especially about Nigerian men. They'll say, oh, if the Nigerian man doesn't love you from the beginning, then he will never love you. And I think we should stop. I think we should start, moving away from stereotypes. Now, it would work. And the way it would work is because you would always see other things around the woman that works. And then the man can always reflect to say, why am I finding it difficult to move from like to love? Especially if that woman is consistent. Because don't forget, sometimes all of us, I think all of us are guilty. We put up an act just to entice. And because we've put up an act, we can't sustain it. As long as the woman too is very consistent in what she brings to the table, I think most men are reasonable. And I'm being very serious here. Contrary to the general opinion that men are not emotional, men are. It's just the way we express. I think the marriage will work. It will work, especially with the family support. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has already mentioned it. It's not, when you are marrying a woman, you are not just marrying the woman, you are marrying the family. You are marrying everybody. And the same thing goes when a woman is marrying a man. She's not just marrying the man, she's marrying the family. And I always say something, if, as a woman, for example, if you look at the man you want to marry, and you look at the relationship between the man and his mother, is non-existent. The relationship between the man and the sister, non-existent. The relationship between the man and other women, he doesn't have one. Do not marry him. He's not for you. He's not ready. The way a man treats his mom, treats his sister, treats the other women around him would dictate or determine the way he treats his wife. And that's the truth. And if you're not convinced that he treats his mom well, he treats his sister well, he treats other women well, then, like Doctor said, run.
Okay, thank you very much. Somebody is disagreeing with you here, saying I don't think that can work, but maybe she's speaking from a female perspective. Dr. Lajobi, just very quickly, do you think as a man that it can work where he doesn't love the woman? Do you agree with Dr. Adigun that it can work in that situation? Yes, I can. Yes, we can hear you now. You unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. So I agree. I believe love can grow, particularly for a man. Yes.
Okay, I'm so happy.
It has happened to me before.
I like that. I love that. But I think as women, based on the chat I can tell, I think it's very different for a woman. And sisters, if you disagree with me, let me know. I think for a woman, it's almost impossible. Even if we
you see, even for women.
Yeah.
Even for women, this is how it is. Usually, and that's what a lot of women get wrong. They will tick the boxes, and then because it appears as if there's no love, they will see somebody who they look at the box and there is one or two things that are wrong, and there is love at first sight, and they will go, and things go wrong. So you need to be critical. You are looking at emotion. You need to balance emotion and logic. You need to balance emotion and logic.
Okay.
Yes, because
yeah.
that is the background. Those things you are taking is the background, is the foundation.
I slightly disagree. And I'm just reading the chat here. I think for women, we're very emotional. And because we're very emotional, I agree with you that love is never enough. Sisters, brothers, I personally, love is never enough. However, the absence of love can be fatal. It creates a vacuum. It creates a space. It's like this emotional tank that is continuously empty. Someone is just saying that if that happens, no matter what the guy does, you just be angry. You know, you will listen to a love song and you can't even picture him. It's not resonating. But I don't want us to, go into that. I think at the end of the day, it's a choice everybody has to make. It depends on it depends on the kind of marriage you want to have. Some people are okay with a marriage of convenience. In a marriage of convenience, love is not important. But if you want a romantic, loving, emotional marriage, then maybe.
I wish there was time to talk about love.
Yeah, exactly. Can I ask what do you mean by marriage of convenience?
Yes.
A marriage of convenience, from my understanding, is a marriage that is not very.
You need it.
Is not very emotional. Is a marriage that you both tick the boxes. On paper, you both look good, but emotional connection is not part of the equation. Maybe he's Muslim, he ticks all the boxes, but the emotional connection is not there. That's a marriage of convenience, in my view, and I stand to be corrected.
Yeah. Now, sorry, can I just quickly chip in again in terms of love? Now, when you see somebody you want to marry, there's always that attraction. You've seen them, they are good looking, they are this, they are that, and you're attracted to them. You are not being forced to marry them. So there's something to build on. I think, yes, fact, love can grow, but the marriage of convenience you're talking about, let's say, for example, they are trying to do some kind of family arrangement. Oh, we have some business transaction. Let's see live with our children. No, yes, I do not agree to that, because obviously that is not a marriage. That is a business transaction, and they are just trying to seal it. But obviously, the marriage we are talking about here is man sees woman, woman sees man. In the first instance, they are attracted to each other. So that base is still there. That foundation is there. Yes, it may not be 100%. So that kind of love would grow over time because they have met and there's a foundation for that. It's different from, oh, they've never met, son, oh, come and marry this, my friend's daughter, and you have to. No, that is different. But if they have met each other, they might not really love each other. They might even be within the same circle of friends for years. And then out of just whatever, they then say, okay, yeah, we can marry ourselves. Such love would grow. It will grow.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't want to, Dr. Lajobe and Dr. Adigo, I would love for us to, maybe another time, another platform, to have that conversation.
This topic is a topic on its own.
Exactly.
It's a topic
love.
Exactly, and particularly because I think this is such a point of confusion for a lot of sisters. Such a point of confusion.
A lot of women.
A lot of us, because especially when you say it's not a business transaction, but at a time, a woman that hits 30 in our society, once you hit that 30, 31, you're under so much pressure that it's not that nobody's forcing you, but you just see this brother, is he Muslim, is he Yoruba, and nobody's forcing you, but you know that you're not, and it's just the pressure from everybody that is making you say yes. So that's the kind of convenient marriage I'm talking about, but I'll leave that. And because we need to round up, I know it's more good in Nigeria, but just before we go, final question for all of you. Ayola, in one word, what does marriage mean to you? In one word.
Marriage, for me, marriage is, it's a lot of words, but since you insist that I use one, I would say marriage is a deep connection. Yeah, that's what it is.
You gave us two words, but that's deep connection between two people, and I am with you on that. Dr. Lajobe, in one word, what does marriage mean to you?
Partnership.
I love that. Dr. Adigo, in one word, what does marriage mean to you?
in one word, it means Aziza to me, my wife.
The dramatic man on Instagram. I'm sure your wife is blushing now. In any case, everybody, I'm sure his wife is Aziza. So alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. I've really, really loved this conversation. And I wish I could start a podcast or also tackle this love and true love, because somebody asked, which we couldn't get to, that does true love grow before marriage or after marriage? But we have to go and pray Maghrib now in Nigeria. So Jazakallah khair, Dr. Lajo. Allah reward you.
Can I say just one?
Yes, sir, please.
See, two things. So I'm writing a book on marriage. Yeah, Marriage Simplified. Next month it will be out.
Inshallah.
Then I'm releasing a course on financial intelligence. It will be out next week.
Fantastic.
Yes, it's a free course on financial intelligence.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And please, once it's ready, just send me the link so I can share with all our audience. Ayola, I don't know if you're working on anything that you want to tell our people as well.
Well, not right now. I mean, I'm a learner. I'm still learning from a lot of people. So I mean, well, for my business, I'm into branding, media services, and things, and communication and things like that. So if anyone is open to speaking with me on what their projects or things like this, I'll be happy to discuss it with them.
Is it by email, or should they contact you on Instagram? Or what?
Email is best.
Okay. If you drop your email on the chat box for anybody that needs branding it. Dr. Adigun, what parting final words do you have for our single brothers and sisters on the platform today?
Honesty, communication. I think that's really, really key. If you cannot communicate, then there's no point. I think that's the most important as far as I'm concerned. In addition to all the 4 attributes that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam laid down for us as Muslims, and just and just like Dr. Olajobi and Brother Yola said, I'm more than happy for people to contact me. You can share my email, you can share my Instagram. Like I do mentorship, and I do a lot of seminars and trainings myself. So if people want to contact me, I'm more than happy for you to share my details. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Dr. Lajoba, I just need to also mention particularly, because in our society, the 3 of you actually, we come from this culture where women, you find a man that is cooking, cleaning, and they think, why? Some men will be like, why should they do that? So thank you so much for shedding light on that it actually gives you joy to do that. And I'm sure that Ayola as well, whenever you decide to have your own family, these are things you take on board. So the brothers here, cleaning, cooking is not just for the sister. I generally don't like cooking. Before I got into marriage, the only thing my mothers and grandmothers kept telling me was how to cook, all those things. I'd rather outsource cooking. Then nobody taught us the key things. Nobody taught us the things. All they teach us is how to make amala this way, make a pussy that way. We know food is important. Don't get me wrong. But it doesn't mean that's the only thing that makes you as a wife. So brothers in the house, know that you should, if you do that for your wife, she's even going to love you more. And sisters, I mean, I have so many notes here, and I just can't wait to take on board and take this lesson from our brothers. Thank you so much, Ayola. Thank you, Dr. Olajobi and Dr. Adigo.
Thank you. Can I also quickly chip in? I think topics like this, usually take a lot of time. 2 hours we will struggle to address some certain issues. I suppose, maybe in subsequent series, if there's any opportunity to extend the timing a little bit, I think that would be a very welcome, development. Yeah.
Our audience will be very happy to hear that. The feedback last week, everybody kept saying, extend the time. But I'm working on something, a part 2 single series. Definitely, inshallah, there'll be a part 2. And at that part 2, we'll have unlimited time to talk about many things. Jazakallah khair, everyone. I know it's time for Maghrib in Nigeria now, and a lot of our audience are from Nigeria, so I'll be ending this meeting. Thank you, everyone. And if you're following me on Instagram, I'll be sharing some of the lessons from this session. The recording will be shared, so expect that in your email during the week. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Jazakumullah khair.